Hello, BookTube. All right. The people have spoken. That's you. And I must listen, of course, because this is a conversation. So, a little bit of recap. I put a video out there asking you what sorts of things you were looking for on this channel. What can I do to help? Since a lot of you are quarantined at home, you're watching a lot more BookTube. A lot of you are doing me the distinct honor of watching my videos, the million videos that I do a day. That's incredibly heartwarming for me. And by the same token, I am objective enough to recognize that this quarantine, this whole change, is not hitting me particularly hard. My local markets are well stocked and their supply chains are as strong as anybody's can be. And I write and read all day long, just like I did before. So I'm in a position to help if I can. So I put the call out there. What kinds of things would you like to see? And you sent me via email. I leave my email on every video. Feel free to email me about anything at any time. Just no insults and no toe tapping either. Okay, none of this business of you send me an email at 6:30 p.m. on a Monday. And at 9 a.m. on a Thursday or on a Tuesday, you send me another email saying, "Did you get it? Are you mad at me? Where are you?" No, none of that. I love getting emails every day, but I get a lot of emails, and I also work all day long. So, but I leave my email, and so I have been flooded with suggestions. A lot of them I've been able to see coming. A lot of you love starter kits and top 10 lists and all that. Who doesn't, right? What kind of book person doesn't love that? So I am pondering a lot of those. But another thing that came up regularly was a lot of people said, you do these mail hauls on your channel, and you have for 4 years. And because I read mostly new releases, the mail hauls functioned as TBRs. I was going to read everything I got. I read everything I'm sent. But a lot of you pointed out you do these mail hauls, but you very seldom get back to us on what you actually thought about each of the books. Could you do that? Could you go back and like a slug, like an online slug, I put the work right back on you. I said, okay, well, if you want to see me revisit a mail haul, then send me a link to whichever mail haul you want to revisit. And some people did that, but also I got lots of emails because, as I said, I leave my email address on every video. And I got lots and lots of emails from people saying, well, I can send you a link, but what I want you to do is give your feedback on every book you've ever had on your channel. And I wrote back to some of these people and said, are you crazy? It's been thousands and thousands of books. It's been thousands of videos. It's not possible. But I was told that impossible is a state of mind and other rubrics to that effect, some with rather pungent Midwestern expletives. And so I am yielding to peer pressure, to public influence, to you. So that's what we're going to do. So I made a couple of these TBRs, these Throwback Thursday TBR videos about those earlier mail hauls. I've made a couple of those with specific dates in the title of the video, letting you know this is where I'm going back and that these are the books I'm going to be doing. And I want you to ignore those. I'm not going to take them down because I'm not 100% sure how to take them down. But I want you to ignore those because you have made it clear that what you want is for me to go through every book I've ever mentioned on this channel and give you a reminder of it so you don't have to spelunk through the videos, give you an appraisal of it, both at the time and maybe now if that appraisal has changed, and give you some recommendations. And, we're in this together. So I'm going to do that starting now. So I'm going to call this TBR TBR number 1. Now, I'm not going to go through video by video for each video because that would be another 3,000 videos. That's inhuman. So instead, I'm going to group some together. But I am going to go in strict chronological order, just talking about every book that I've mentioned on this channel. I'll probably group some videos. I only do 2 or 3. So I'll probably group them together around 10 or 15 books per video in an attempt to get this done before the Trump of Doom. So this starts in March of 2016. I'm starting right at the beginning of my channel. One of you very patiently pointed out how I can look at my videos from the very beginning instead of going all the way back from the present. Going back from the present was a little tedious. So instead we're going to go forward from 2016, from March of 2016. So I have a list of books here, and at the end I'm going to give the bean of the batch. Of course, Frida was less than a twinkle in her mother's eye when this channel started. In fact, one of the heartstring pulling things about going back and looking at these old videos is seeing my old dogs. My old pointer, Malin, is visible in every video. She was always on my right-hand side on that old couch. And right next to me, wedged against me and underneath my left elbow, so invisible most of the time, was my Basset Hound, Lucy. But they bookended me in virtually every video. They needed to be near me. 2016, they were starting to get sick, starting to be ailing, starting to be very visibly weak. You can see, when you watch Malin, you can see it. And the occasional times that Lucy is in a video, people left comments and emailed me saying, is she alive? But still, that tugs at the heartstrings, because Frida was a long, long way off at that time. But nevertheless, The Bean of the Batch is going to be the best book of the group, just from my estimation. A lot of these will be of much greater interest to the rest of you. So we're going to do about 10 today. First one being How to Grow Old by Cicero, one of those little how-to lessons from the classical authors book in the Princeton University Press series. This was How to Grow Old is a translation of a treatise of his on old age, and the translation was by Philip Freeman. The translation was pretty good. The work itself is insufferable. It's incredibly self-regarding and boring in English or in Latin or in Martian. It wouldn't matter. And the next one was Northern Armageddon by Peter MacLeod, a work of largely military history about the Battle of the Plains of Abraham. So colonial era American history. That was very good. It was very, very good. I wish I still had it. No idea if it came out in paperback. Once again, I will try to remember to leave links to anything that I reviewed, if I can find them. I reviewed lots of places, and some of these things are not easy to find anymore. Then the next two were abrasive biographies, and they were connected. The first one was Louisa Adams writing a book called Louisa, about Louisa, it's Louisa Thomas is the author, writing a book called Louisa about Louisa Adams, the wife of John Quincy Adams, who until our current president was the only foreign-born wife of a U.S. president in history, and who was an incredibly remarkable woman. She was an incredibly remarkable woman. She had a few really good books written about her, or about little segments of her life, and this book was really good. I had an old friend, a personal friend of mine, who wrote a book on the same subject, on the same person. I can't help, just from a purely personal standpoint, to recommend that book over this one, in terms of, even though that book is not technically finished. But this one is very conversational, very light, very readable, with it very intentionally aimed at being readable, without sacrificing anything in the way of scholarship. So I do recommend it. Again, don't know if it came out in a paperback. And linked with that was John Quincy Adams' Militant Spirit by James Traub, a big biography of John Quincy Adams, one of the most fascinating presidents in American history, who had in 2016, 2017, a little renaissance of books. There was a little batch of books and studies of him that I couldn't make me any happier, absolutely. And Library of America did a 2-volume beautiful set of his journal. John Quincy Adams kept a journal for most of his life, and it's very good reading. And John Quincy Adams' Militant Spirit was very good. It came out in a paperback. I didn't know that. I always assumed, back in the good old days of Milk and Honey, that the publisher that sent me the advance copy and the hardcover would send me, in the due course of events, any paperback. But that doesn't happen. Sometimes, especially for nonfiction, the paperback is a ways down the line. It's more than a year. It can be 2 years, 3 years. And that means the publicist has probably changed. And they probably don't have a record, or often you don't get the paperback. And I didn't get one of this one, but I was on to other books by then, so I didn't even notice. I didn't notice until I found the paperback of this book at a bookstore in Vermont while I was up visiting Mark Richardson of Richardson Reads and his family. And we went to a bookstore, and I found the paperback of this and realized that I was blurbed on it. I did not know that. Who knows how many such paperback blurbs are out there of mine that I don't know anything about, because I was just assuming that the publisher would send me the paperback, and they didn't. But anyway, it was very good. John Quincy Adams' Militant Spirit was very good. Probably the best John Quincy Adams biography of that spate that year. Then the next one is also a biography. It's part of the Yale English Monarch series, the biography of Henry IV. By Chris Given Wilson, and it was everything you want from a book in that series. That series is great anyway. Those of you who like royal biography will know it, certainly, because you really can't get around it. You can't do without it. Very often in the Yale English Monarch series, the volume on any given monarch will be the definitive book. It just stand that way. And that's amazing. For so many of those to exist in one press's line is amazing. And this is no exception. I don't think there's a better biography of this king that exists. Then the next one is by Ed Warner, and it is called Running with Rhinos. It was a nature book about him going to Zimbabwe and studying and experiencing their rhinos, and it's a fairly upbeat, fairly hopeful book. At the time that I made my video, I said that it was disingenuously hopeful, that the situation on the ground in Zimbabwe and everywhere else in Africa is radically worse than the picture he was painting. I believe, I don't have the heart to check, but I believe that if anything, my predictions were generous. At the time, I had made dark predictions about what the state of events was really like on the ground in Zimbabwe for the rhinos, and I haven't checked to see what's happened in the last 4 years, but it can't be good. I haven't had a paperback copy of this book. I haven't read it since I read it for this video. Then the next one is a novel. Again, I haven't seen a paperback of this one. It's by Stephen O'Connor. It's called Thomas Jefferson Dreams of Sally Heming, and it's great. A great historical novel. A weird historical novel. It's not straightforward. It blurs with the present day in a lot of very interesting ways. No gimmicky ways, no showboaty ways, just wonderful ways. I really, really recommend it, especially if you're interested in Thomas Jefferson, and especially if you like reading historical fiction. It won't be the normal thing you're expecting, but you will love it. Oh my, was it good. And the next one is The Dove's Necklace by Raja Alem, a book that left virtually no impression on me whatsoever. So I don't know what that's attributable to. I don't think I've read this author since. But this one is just a void. Then there's a book called The Statesman and the Storyteller by Mark Zwonitzer, which is an examination of the long friendship and literary rivalry and literary friendship between presidential assistant John Hay and Mark Twain. And it was really good. It was really, really good. It stands out in my memory along with Northern Armageddon as just a really good work of history that I wish I still had. I think John Hay is fascinating. And Mark Twain, of course, everybody thinks Mark Twain is fascinating. This was a really good examination of the two men through the lens of each other in a way that you won't get in a work standalone of either one of them. So I don't know if it's still available, but I really liked it. And then the next one is a little thing by Keith Houston called The Book, and it is something that will be intensely familiar to most of you who read books or about book history. There's a new one coming out this fall. I think the Oxford Illustrated Guide to the History of the Book or something like that. These things are, as I mentioned in my original video, these things are very much of a type. They have a program. Right? The history of the book doesn't change, and it's well known, and it's fairly followable. It follows. There's hardly any interpretive disagreement about how these things happen until you get to modern reading reception in the relatively long modern era. But before that, the actual evolution of the thing we call a book is a standard story. And this book doesn't deviate from that standard story at all. It's just really engagingly done. I think I reviewed it. I think I reviewed a couple of these things. I will hunt around for them. And then the last one for today is Critics, Monsters, and Fanatics by Cynthia Ozick, a collection of her occasional literary pieces. This is not short fiction or novels. This is not fiction of any kind from this author, whose fiction has never done anything for me at all, but whose nonfiction is terrific. These occasional paid prefaces and book reviews and considerations and whatnot are fantastic. They're just the collection is in my bookcase right by the shark there of books about books and collections of reviews and essays and prefaces and whatnot. And I consult it. I go to that bookcase all the time to consult it. Whereas I wouldn't dream of revisiting a Cynthia Ozick novel, not in a million years. So as a good example of that, I know that I'm a little bit prejudiced when it comes to that. Of course, I'm going to like these things more than the fictional counterpart, but still, I maintain that some authors have a real knack for nonfiction that just doesn't pay. But anyway, that is your TBR TBR number 1. So that's a batch of the earliest books that I mentioned on this channel. Okay, and some of them are very good. A couple of the history volumes are very good. Some of these biographies are very good. But I want to give you the bean of the batch, and the bean of the batch, the best book, at least from my perspective, looking back over the course of 4 years, is that Henry IV biography, which really stands out. It was very well done, very argumentative in all the good ways, interrogated its sources, and clearly was reaching to be the definitive modern language biography, the modern biography of this king, and I think it does that. So, I don't know if it's available. I don't know if it's had a paperback. I don't know anything like that. But if you're interested in that sort of thing, if you have, for instance, a shelf or a wall of royal history, you got to have this book. If you don't already, you got to have this book, and you're going to like it. You're really going to enjoy it. It's not just dutiful. You're going to enjoy including it in your collection. So that is TBR TBR number 1. And this is also a kind of announcement video because I'm just going to do what you want. I'm going to go through every book. And quite a few of you have said, I've written back to most of the people who've sent these emails and said, that seems insane. That's a huge number of books. And quite a few people have written back along the lines of this. That's where I got this idea, and said, well, you could lump some in. You could do a bunch at a time. But the universal addendum to all of those emails has been, don't skip the used books. Don't just do the new arrivals. Reconsider, revisit every book that you've talked about on this channel. You people, I don't know. But I'm going to do it. Absolutely. You don't like the idea, you can skip the video. That's no problem. But I'm going to do it. So that's what we're going to do. I don't know if I'll confine it to Thursdays. I might do it twice a week, but we're going to do. I'm going to revisit every book that I've talked about on this channel over the course of this pandemic, and we'll see if it revives any interest. Quite a few of you, like I mentioned, quite a few of you are new to the channel. So quite a few of you, I can't expect you to go back 3,000 videos and just watch them. I can't expect you to do that. So instead, we will revisit the books, and we'll see how it goes. So I will wrap this up for now, but I have other bookish things to talk about, so I will be back. Thank you, Book 2.